Okay. All right, y'all. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I would build an off-market campaign for Rome, Georgia. And we're going to see if we can find some rental properties that actually are going to cash flow. Hey, y'all, I'm Jay Helms. I'm founder of the W2 Capitalist and BRRRRs for Busy Parents. And my wife and I, plus hundreds of members of our community, mom and dads just like you, they use this exact same system to buy 1 to 4 rental properties a year. This is while they're still working their job, raising their kids, and zero cold calling or VA teams or anything like that. So here's the plan for this video. First thing I'm going to show you is how I would build an off-market campaign for, I forgot to write down the zip code, 30165. And I said write down because I am reading this as I'm getting used to the script. We're going to use some tired landlord data. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that, so that you're not stuck fighting over deals on the MLS. We're going to take a look at a couple of properties on the MLS just to see maybe Rome is that unicorn where you can still find properties on the MLS that actually cash flows. There are some markets that are coming around with that, or were coming around to that until the Fed lowered interest rates. I feel like that was very short-lived. I think interest rates are still going to come down, which is good. It's good. Anyway, so let's dive into it. Let me open up the screen. If you happen to see this, you're watching live, say hello. Love to know who is watching, and comment with your zip code or your city that you're in. We'll possibly do one of these in the future on your target market. And also let me know if you if you can hear me okay. I noticed last week that moving away from the microphone doesn't do so good. So here we go. So the market brief. This is on Rome, Georgia. Population, I didn't know Rome was this big, but population is 37,713 from the 2020 census. Now this is, I'll get into this in a minute. This is a college town, so I don't know, it kind of depends. It's probably bigger than that if they didn't include the students in the population, but we'll go with the data showing us, right? The most important thing here when I look up population is, was there any growth? And according to census.gov, since 2010, there has been about 4%. That's not a negative. That's an approximate 4%. So approximately 4%. Good thumbs up. That's what we want to see on any market, that there is a population growth, no matter how big or small. Population growth is ideal for any market that you want to invest in. Days on market, this here is red, and I just noticed that's a little bit harder to read than the white, but 76. So I put that in red because that is an interesting sign that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Nearest major metropolitan area, Atlanta. This listed Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, all in Georgia, approximately 70 miles from Rome. The other one is just to the north of it. There is Chattanooga. It's also about 70, 80 miles from there. Here's what I like about this positioning, and you're going to see is that we continue to do these. We're focused on small towns, right? And Rome especially, we drive through here as we're going from one set of grandparents to the other one a lot. It has really just caught my eye, but it is a small regional hub kind of town, blue collar plus hospital and college workers. Few campuses there, Berry, Shorter College. I've heard that deer roam around on those college campuses, which is actually kind of cool. And then you've got a couple of different hospital organizations there as well. A little bit more on the market of Rome. The median home value, now this was owner-occupied properties, was $215, which is very interesting. The median gross rent, and I'm confused here. We're going to look at this from a couple other different sources just to make sure this checks out. I think that's a little light for a 3-bed, but I'm reporting what came back to me from census.gov. I think that's a little light, but we're going to see. Here's why I like it for a BRRRR fit. There's older single-family housing stock. You got 60 to 80s, 1960s, 1980s ranches. They're bricked. They're lived in. They're older. Just means like it's a good time for a BRRRR, right? It's about an hour from Atlanta, so it's one of those, and probably a little bit further to Chattanooga, but it's far enough, right, to be its own thing, but still close enough for big city jobs and people who may want to commute. And as crazy as that sounds to me, there are people who commute long ways for jobs. Days on market isn't crazy hot, meaning it's not in the 20s or 30s. I think this is the first time we've seen one where days on market was higher than the highest. The highest is 76 days. So here's what that tells me. You've got some seller motivation potentially, especially if they're tired landlords. And you're not going to get into some bidding wars if you happen to go to the MLS. And we're going to look at a couple of those here in just a minute. The other thing I want to show you real quick, this is our portfolio growth roadmap. So if you want to work with us, these are the 6 steps that we kind of work you through, or I work you through. Very first one is off-market campaign implemented. Take a screenshot of this if you want to check it out, or just message me. I'll send it to you. More efficient underwriting. I'm going to hit the high notes. Off-market campaign implemented, more efficient underwriting, seller rapport building, and negotiations. I fully believe when we're focused on these tired landlords, it's building a relationship with them first, not just a transactional deal. Number 4, verified financing strategy. These all vary depending on your situation. We can work you through that. Finding and negotiating with good trades and contractors. And then obviously the last part of the BRRRR, right? Stabilize, refinance, and repeat. So with that being said, let's log into PropStream and let's take a look at what the market has to offer. So when we typically do these for investors, we look at a minimum of 3 to 5 zip codes, but for this underwriting, we're just going to choose one. And that's 30165. If there's not a whole lot here, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're in this area, I think this is in, was it Fulton County? There may be, you may expand just a little bit to get a little bit more information, but here's how I would do it, right? If I'm focused on Rome specifically, and let's just look, what is the county? Rome, Georgia County. I think it's Floyd. I was close. I had the first letter. We may expand it to Floyd. We're going to do just inside 30165 for a minute, right? So let me show you. I enter the zip code, and you're going to see, I'm going to tap on filters here. This is PropStream, by the way. PropStream I've used it for 5 or 6 years now. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can use it for free. They've always got some kind of trial going on, whether it's 7 days free or you get 25,000 records free, whatever the case is, it's free to use. Here's what I do when I do these off-market campaigns for people that we work with is I put in their zip code. I instantly select tired landlord with a pre-filter that PropStream indicates or creates. Tired landlords in this situation are folks who have owned properties for 15 plus years. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we focus on that. Number 1, we already know it's a rental property. Number 2 is if they've owned it for 15 plus years, considerable amount of equity in the property, there might be a chance to for some owner financing situations to happen. So that's why we choose that, and that's how we focus primarily on tired landlords. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this is called building a filter stack, right? So I build out these filter stacks. We see what's going to happen. Let me take tired landlords off and highlight this 18,786 properties right here as I'm going through here and stacking these filters to get to our very targeted list, right? Because thinking ahead, we're going to send some mailers out in these brightly colored envelopes that are sitting right here behind my computer. They've got stamps and everything's gotten expensive. So we want to eliminate as much of, not eliminate, we want to identify a very target niche, right? So we're going to do that when we start selecting these filters. You're going to see this number dwindle down. most of the members that we work with send somewhere between 3 to 500 mailers per quarter. That yields them enough to acquire 1 to 4 properties a year. Is how that works. So that's how the math checks out there. So tired landlords, you're going to see it's going to drop to 44, 46. It's going to continue to get smaller, and that's okay as we go through this. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose residential. I'm going to choose single family, multifamily 2 to 4. So we got our 1 to 4 units. Most markets, we don't want to be in an HOA situation. We also don't want to have a pool. Now, I was talking to a guy last week who's in Vegas, and he said, "Oh no, we want pools and we want to be in HOAs because we know those neighborhoods are the best." So we included it for him. But for the sake of this exercise, because this is what we do for most people, we exclude HOAs. Usually there are some fees that are associated with HOAs that typically get into cash flow, and then maybe they have the power to change what you can do with a rental property there. Who knows? The reason why we exclude pools, it's added maintenance, added liability, added cost. We just exclude those for our typical deal. Next thing we're going to look at is MLS. We want to make sure that properties are off market. And then owner information. We're going to scroll down here to ownership type, and we're going to choose individual. Now, the reason why we choose individual, think of mom and pops. Think of somebody who is a little bit easier to get a hold of versus if it's a corporation. Now you got to go find out who owns the corporation, and it's just a lot more difficult to find those. And typically, with corporations and especially with properties that are owned by trust, they're usually not motivated to do anything. So again, looking for motivation, tired landlords, older properties owned by an individual. There's some other things that we can tackle here as far as value and equity, or backup and property details. If we wanted to specifically say a minimum of 3 bedroom, or minimum 3 bedroom, 2 bath, we could do that. We're not going to for the sake of this exercise, and we typically don't with folks that we work with unless they have a specific reason to do it. So with all those filters, we've got 1,050 unique properties. Now, we're going to take a look at a couple of these here and just kind of see what's on the market in this area. Matter of fact, let's do this. Here's how I would do this. Let's continue on with building our list for our campaign here. We're going to save these 1,050. We're going to type in Rome GA. It's going to save it. And now we're going to go over to my properties. We're going to scroll down to where our list is. Rome GA, we've got our 1,050. And we're going to clean it up just a little bit. Here's what I mean by that is sometimes this data comes over and there are properties with addresses that shouldn't be in here. First thing we look at is to make sure there is a number at the front of every address. I'm going to sort it back the other way so you can see what I mean. 19 Lakewood Drive, okay, versus this option number 2, Wilkerson, I don't know how to say it, Wilkerson Road and Mountain Avenue. Typically, when there is no number associated with it, it means that there's no structure on the property or there's just missing data. And so, A, we're not in the habit of buying raw land. B, we also want to make sure we're getting the right information. So right out the bat, I just remove those. I remove those altogether. So we're going to take those out. I'm going to start selecting. I just want to make sure y'all are seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, looks like it. If not, let me know in the chat and I'll get it corrected. But I think you guys can see what I'm seeing, hopefully. Okay. So I'm going to continue to clean this up. I'm going to select a few. We're going to delete those. For sake of time, I'm not going to sit here and do that with you watching. The other thing we're going to look at is mailing addresses. Now, this is the address of the property, right? Here's the mailing address of the owner. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen one blank, but here's one that's blank. And so if we're sending them a letter, we've got to have their address. We would remove that from our export, which I'm going to show you how to do here in just a second. So mailing address, I'm now looking for blank addresses. That's never happened before. What I primarily look for on this is I scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to see these PO boxes. Here's an address without a actual number to it. Just incorrect data. I remove PO boxes from these lists because they have the highest return rate. They just return to sender, address unfound. Those are the things that we just would not, we don't like wasting advertising dollars. So we'll remove those, takes a few minutes just to clean it up. And then once we export this, let's say we do export it, you just go to actions. I'm sorry, you hit the export button. And what that's going to do is it's going to show, it's going to download a file. Now, right away, I see this guy, William Brooks, 975 Turner Road. He's got multiple properties. Well, we're not going to send him a letter for every piece of property that he owns. We're going to send it to him for one, right? We're going to send him to one. And when he calls us about that one and he wants 30% of a retail, we already know, just because of the data that we have, that that property is not for us, right? And we explained to him, hey, I get you want 30% over your favorite property here. That's not me. I'm not your buyer for that one. Let me ask you something. What's the property in your portfolio that's the biggest pain in your ass, right? Every landlord has one. Every time I've mentioned that comment or made that question or statement, there's a chuckle, right? If you get a chuckle, it's excellent news because instantly their mind's going to the address of the property that they would just like to get rid of. And so that's where you start your journey with them and building that seller rapport is like, let's talk about that one, right? Let me see if I can solve your problem for that one. It's the biggest pain in your butt. You don't want it anyway. Let me see if we can make a deal on it. And what the idea here is, if you can solve that pain for them, then when they get ready to sell the rest of their portfolio or something else in their portfolio, who are they going to call, right? Or who should they call first? Who's going to be first of mind? It'll be you. You took care of my problem property. Here's my next problem property. Do you want it? Right? So that's the idea there. So we export the list. Now, once we export the list, we're going to open up our template, which I did not set a screen up for this. So this is something we'll do next time. Matter of fact, let me set up. Let me see if I can do this. How can I do this? I want to show you the templates, what I'm trying to get at. Get back to this. So I do have a landing page here that shows this. So we would use these brightly colored envelopes. Now they are birthday card size style, and they have handwritten addresses with a real stamp. When I say a real stamp, it's not a processed, pre-sorted, discounted. It's actual real stamp. I actually, and I hate saying this, but I avoid using the American flag stamp on these because if you think about it, what stamp do you see on most pieces of junk mail? It's the American flag. So when we do these, the kids go with me to the post office and they get to find or, choose their favorite sticker. So that's what that's, and then they help put the stickers on. Here's what the inside, let me get past all these testimonials. Here's the inside of what the mailer looks like. It is a very non-salesy sales copy. And it basically says, hey, we've never met. I'm looking to buy more small to medium sized rental properties in city. The purpose of this letter is to introduce myself in hopes that if you ever decide to sell, 123 Main Street, that you'll think of me and give me the first opportunity to purchase. Put a wet signature on it, put your cell phone, encourage them to call, text, and then we put a personalized photo on there to show, hey, I'm a real person. I'm a real local person because the photo that I'm sharing with you is from a local landmark. And then that way they know they're not trying to get bamboozled from some, remote wholesaler from South Florida. Maybe you're in South Florida and you're doing this in your backyard. Hopefully you are. But if you get what I mean. Anyway, so that's what the inside is going to look like. And we're going to do the mail merge, print them all out, do the mail merge, handwrite the envelopes, drop in the mail. Most people doing this can knock out about 100 mailers per week. Okay. We do this as a service. I can get into that a little bit later, but we do this as a service for our members who don't have the time or desire to want to conduct these off-market campaigns. I mean, who likes stuff in envelopes? I do, actually. Anyway, right. So that's how I would do the off-market campaign. So I was not prepared. One thing I didn't realize until now is, what does the mail merge look like? Probably should go into that next time. But let me go back to, let's look at some properties in Rome, Georgia. Now, I had ChatGPT load me up with these three things, these three listings. So we're going to look at them just to see kind of what the opportunity is there. And then we're going to choose one to underwrite. This one is good sign. It had a price cut recently, a couple of weeks ago. Here's some encouraging words. 147 days on Zillow. Maybe has been on the market a little bit longer than that. Let's keep looking here. So, yeah, been on the market longer than that. A lot longer. So this was bought in 23 for 150. In 24, it was listed for 239. So it looks like maybe they did some renovations to it. We're going to get in the pictures here in just a minute. And it has essentially been sitting on the market since then. Every couple of months they drop 10. Well, they didn't for a while. So what this tells me is that this seller is not very highly motivated. I mean, it's been on the market for coming up on two years. Ouch. Okay. So they haven't been motivated. That doesn't mean that they might not be. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of the pictures here. Roof looks new. Paint on the outside looks new. That's an interesting window placement. Inside, I don't know why I keep tapping on that. Looks fairly new. It's granite countertops. Looks like a potential mudroom or not a mudroom, laundry room. This looks fairly new. Newer toilet. Popcorn ceilings, looks like. Why they wouldn't take that down. Surely that's not keeping it from selling, so let's keep going. New hot water heater. It appears to be newer. Also, we can tell right away that it's gas because of the vent. Wish they would have done something else with this and then get rid of the fire pit or make it nicer. That's, again, if it's a flip. As we're holding it for a rental, I probably wouldn't do anything on the back here. I would also just get rid of that fire pit. I wouldn't want a tenant lighting a fire that close to the house. Big backyard, that, half acre. Looks like a new HVAC system. on the outside. Oh, these windows are the carport. Okay, that's cool. Okay, we're gonna underwrite this. Gonna look at the description. Great level lot, beautiful area of Rome. Located minutes from schools. They obviously bought this as a flip. Almost all new appliance package. It's not a garage, it's a carport. And I mean, I didn't see the door for the garage, but all right. So let's take this. We're going to throw it into deal check. Notice I'm just copying the address. This is only going to take about 5 minutes for us to immediately get into it. So we're going to tap on add property, import property data. I'm going to paste the address. It comes up right here. And we're going to do a search. It should find almost immediately the listing, house built in 1971. I didn't notice, let me move this tab over here. I didn't notice a view of the electrical box. If it wasn't on, it's probably it right back there. Or maybe that's a fire extinguisher. I'm not really sure. Here's the point I'm trying to make. If it's built in the 70s, it may or may not have a breaker box. That's just one thing I would check. Can be costly to have that redone. If you're to do it as a rental. So square footage, 1,200 square feet, half acre lot. Our realtor.com estimate is 212. Listing here was 209. Okay. Tax amount 2262. That seems high. I don't know why. I think that seems high. And then property insurance is 1,060. Both of those, just want to verify. If you were to buy it at 209, is the tax amount still going to be this? This is a little outdated. It says the last sale was 90,000 in 2004. That's outdated. Or it differs than what Zillow said here. Zillow said it sold in 2003. So, all right, we're going to save and customize. By the way, Deal Check is just an amazing calculator. You can use it for free. There's a link somewhere around this video where you can sign up and use it absolutely free. Some of the stuff that you're going to see I go through is behind a paywall. You have to have a subscription. Subscription is not that expensive to utilize, but for the most part, what you're going to look at, it's absolutely doesn't cost you anything. We're going to look at this as if it's a true DSCR. Now, this is pretty much turnkey, right? So purchase price, we're going to put 25% down. We're going to say our interest rate is at 7, and it's a 30-year fixed. 3% purchase cost. Now, even though this is one thing I caution a lot of folks, even though you see this as completely redone, you need to put something in here. I normally just put $1,000 because you're going to find something. Now, earlier, if you remember in our market brief, we had gross rents, wrong slide, of $900 to $1,000 for a 3-bed. I thought that was kind of low. Now, that was from census.gov. Deal Check immediately imported 1530. So with those things being different, I'm going to go to one more source. Now, these are initial sources that I would check. Your best kind of pulse is to do a search of seeing what's available in the area, see what it's listed for. That's probably the second best thing. First best thing is if you're just brand new to this and you have no idea and you don't want to rely on these tools just yet, is to call a local property manager and say, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath on Harbor Road. What does that typically rent for? Wrong deal. We may look at that one next. Yeah, this is 3-bed, 2-bath. 3 bed, 2 bath. This is a house. All right, so Retometer has it even higher at 1823 is the average. So if we want to be conservative, and I'm a conservative guy, I'm just going to leave the 1530 there. Vacancy rate 10. It's good. Actually, we're gonna drop it down to 7. Oops. I'm gonna do that. The reason I drop it down to 7 is 10% of 365 days is a whole full month. Typically, with single family homes, folks stay in longer, and so that means vacancy is going to drop. No other income. Operating expenses we put at 40%. This is with us self-managing. If you were to hire a property manager, you're going to add probably another 10% to it. Appreciation, income increase, those are all defaults. We're going to leave them as is. Land depreciation value. Okay, so we have all of our information in here. I just want to make sure that it's correct. And right away, I can look over here, this red X, I know that it doesn't hit our criteria. Now, this is completely customizable for what you typically use as your criteria. For the sake of these underwritings, I'm looking at cash flow for $200 per month, a cash on cash return of at least 8%, and then a debt coverage ratio of 1.25. Cash on cash, real quick definition, is the yearly cash flow divided by the total invested cash. So think of your 25% down that you've got to put down because it's an investment property, divided by the yearly cash flow. And then debt coverage ratio, I put 1.25 in here because most DSCR lenders will not lend to you if it's not at a 1.25 DCR or DSCR. And basically what that is the yearly net operating income divided by your yearly debt service. So that's why I look at that. All right, so back to our worksheet here for 3 Harbor Road Northeast. We're going to look and see just how ugly this is because we know it doesn't hit our criteria. Cash flow is negative, which is great if you're investing for tax flow and you could use the tax hit, right? Not me. Cash on cash is -4. Still not a good sign. Let's not give up hope yet. Again, this is what we typically see on MLS properties is that they just don't work as rentals. Again, this one doesn't look like it was meant to be a rental. It looks like it was meant to be a flip. It's crazy that it hasn't sold in 2 years. Sorry, my daughter just ran through the front yard with a kite. So caught me off guard. All right. So here's what we got to do. We simply go down here. It's one of the things I love about Deal Check is that we tap on the offer calculator. It tells us our highest and best to be able to get these criteria, all these criteria checked, right? It suggests that the new price should be $114,000. We're going to save it as the new price. You're going to see this check mark turn green. We're going to go back to our property analysis and we're going to see $242 a month in cash flow. And we've got above 8% cash on cash return. Now, our cash needed obviously dropped, right? A lot of this is affected by the purchase price, the amount of rent, the interest rate on the loan. So let's go just for S&Gs, and that stands for shits and giggles. Let's go down to the interest rate, and let's say it's 2021, and we're able to get a 4% interest rate on our 30-year fixed, right? Now let's go back to, that's the only thing we're going to change. Let's go back to the offer calculator. Instantly, our price to still hit all of our criteria is now 144. My assumption is that they still don't would still not accept it. However, let's look at what PropStream says. We're going to search for this property particular. It's not going to show up in this list because it, or it shouldn't, because it's not a tired landlord. We're going to look at the details of it. This says HOA. The listing says no HOA. I'm going to list, it wouldn't show up because this is ownership type is corporate. It's very possible that it took them, no, I'm going to say it took them 2 years to get the reno done for whatever reason, but it was listed for that long. So that's still a little weird. Here you've got the owner information, link properties. It's only 2. There's a chance that they might be motivated. It looks like current loan amount is what this tab is. This is what I came here to look for. Do they have a current mortgage on it? If not, and you can see here in the shortcut that they don't. Now, reason I bring that up is maybe they're open to owner financing, right? It's been sitting on the market for 2 years. Here's something that, we've talked about tremendously inside the community. And as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with somebody this morning is if you pay that property off, because that was what they were entertaining, most people who do that, those properties all of a sudden don't get as the attention the other ones do that have debt on them, right? And so they're not as concerned about cash flow because if it sits empty, who cares? I own it. It doesn't. So, if you have the discipline to treat it like the other ones, it might be something, but you can look at. But, I bring that up here because this person probably just not motivated to sell. Who knows? If it was not on the MLS, you can possibly reach out to the realtor and ask them about owner financing. I've never had luck with an owner financing deal when there's a realtor involved because the realtor, either I don't know how to communicate to the realtor my intentions, the realtor doesn't know how they're going to get paid, or they just don't know how to communicate to the owner. But it's very hard to make that happen. Okay, so that's one deal on the MLS. Let's take a look at one more. This one probably is going to sell soon. It's got a lot of views for just 36 days. So this is Three-Cedar Lane. Let's take a look and see if there's any. I thought that was a barbed wire fence, but it looks like hog wire. That's interesting. Maybe that's normal for Rome, Georgia. I don't know. I like what I'm seeing. Looks like there's maybe some opportunity here. It's definitely lived in, right? It's not the flip property like we were seeing just a minute ago. It's definitely lived in. Floors look decent. Here's the thing about pictures like this and flooring. Big rug on top of the floor. What does it look like underneath? What does it look like in real life? With wood floors, it's very easy for pictures to hide the true condition of that tiles. I mean, it's, you can take a sledgehammer to this and probably not even mess with it. Kitchen looks awesome. Also gas, right? Just to know. Undermount sink, granite countertops, looks good. Just gonna scroll through here just a little bit more. This one looks pretty solid. Here we go. This is looks like an older bath. Also, you either have really dirty grout lines, or there was an issue in this corner right here, and they just replaced it with white grout, not black. Is that painted over paneling or wallpaper? Looks like every room was done that. Carpet looks in decent condition. The other bath looks like it's been redone. Wouldn't have to do anything really there. Oh, is the carpet the square tiles? I have mixed feelings on the square tile carpet. Here's why: is over time the glue is going to loosen up, and then you've got they're going to slide around, which means anybody who steps on it is probably going to slide with it. And then you would think that you could just turn around and glue it back down. Well, you can't. So you end up, most situations you cannot. You have to go get another piece, which hopefully they bought more than they used and it's stuck in the attic somewhere. But, this stuff gets discontinued just about as quickly as it comes on board. So nice little shed. Looks like maybe they do a little party in there, like the lights. What is this structure? Is that an outside dining table? How awesome is that? Right next to the fire pit, or two fire pits. They got, maybe that's a gas, and maybe this is, I like this. It's a big table. I got a little table envy right now. I don't know what this is showing me. I hate aerial photos that don't just specifically highlight where the property is. Just a personal preference. And then they got the outline of the floor plan. All right, cool. Let's go back to the listing. Here's one thing to look at on Zillow, even though it says 36 days on Zillow, and we saw this on the other property as well. If you scroll down just a little bit further, you get to see when it actually sold. So the last time it sold was in 2015. Okay. And then it was listed for sale the first time at the beginning of December. It went pending a couple of days before Christmas, fell out for whatever reason on the 31st, and now it's back on the market. Okay, so relatively new. Welcome in. Let's just read this real quick. Okay. We're going to underwrite it as a rental. It does definitely looks like it's priced and set up as a for somebody to purchase as their primary residence. We're going to go back to this. We're going to see what we can make this work. And if this is somebody's primary home, which I'm assuming that it is, then they're instantly going to be turned off by an offer from an investor, I would imagine, right? As an investor looking for BRRRRs, we're looking for deals. This is pretty much doesn't need a whole lot of work. So remember how the last property, the property tax was like over $2,500, and I thought that seems a little high. This one seems a little low. This is why it's very important to always double check the numbers. Insurance is probably right on key. But always double check the numbers by getting quotes from, if it's insurance, your insurance person. I like Steadily. There's a link around in this video somewhere. You can get a quote in like 15 minutes from them. Tax amount, you just want to know. You want to talk to the county tax assessor. If you were to go forward with this property and say, look, I'm looking to buy this rental property. Can you give me an estimate on what the tax is? Some of them have calculators on their county websites. Some of them don't. But I always like talking to somebody to kind of get the real deal, right? Realtor information. Okay, we're going to save and customize. Again, this is not going to work. We pretty much already know this. This is just justifying why we need to focus on an off-market campaign right now. Again, this is somebody's primary residence, it appears. What I would question with if you're watching this and you're in Rome, are there areas inside the 30165 zip code that are are known for rentals, and are there areas that are known for just ownership, right? Um, because we can definitely narrow that down with PropStream, and that way we're not focused on some areas, but also because we're choosing the tired landlord, we're already getting, you know, properties that are rentals. Purchase price 25% down. We're going to change this to 7%. Amortized over 30 years. Got pretty close to what that should have, how to pronounce that right. $1,000 per door. Just who knows what's happening in that bathroom. That'd be the only concern initially, because it looked like the grout was doing something a little different. Also to check roof, HVAC, hot water heater, electrical and plumbing. This was built in when, did we see that? 1972. All right, let's keep going here. Rental income 1680. Again, when we looked at Rentometer, it was average was 1823. I think 1680 is probably conservative. I went to the wrong tab. Sorry. Vacancy rate, I'm going to drop down to 7. Operating expenses 40. Everything else is going to stay the same. And then we already know we're not hitting our criteria yet. Let's see what this looks like. It's better, right, than the other one. It's a lot better. We're only losing $100 a month. And we've only got negative 2.2 cash flow. Here's the dangerous thing. Here's a dangerous thought that I've heard some people say when we go through this. They're like, "Oh, it's just $100 more. Why?" I really think that I can get, 1780 for rent. So now I'm at least cash flow neutral. Well, it doesn't really work like that. And I'll show you. So I'm going to add $100 to this. We're going to go back to our property analysis. It only took off those $53, right? Because the percentage of that rent, again, we're at 40%. 40% of our revenue is going to expenses like maintenance and repair, CapEx, mortgage, and then we have another 7% of vacancy, right? So it only took off $53 from that original. So let's look at what we would have to get this product. This is our target, is 134. Now, we're going to save as the new price. That's with us going up $100 a month. Let's change that back just so we're conservative. Let's go back to 1680. We got to drop our target price by 10,000. Okay. Now, if we go to, scroll down here. This is a good thing, right? So they've bought it in 2015 for $72,500. They have it listed for $199. Already went under contract, so it's probably going to go, depending on what was wrong or why that didn't go through, it's probably going to sell for that, right? But I would have no problem making an offer for 124. Again, the seller may not respond, and that's okay. But at least, you've went through the underwriting, where you're going to be. 124 is not too bad. Over $200 a month in cash flow, over 8% cash on cash return. It's not bad. Not bad. So if I were you and I had this popped up on my, listings, I would save it. I would probably go ahead and reach out to the realtor who's got it listed and say, "Hey, I'm interested. Not interested in the price. I am an investor." And see what kind of information they can give you. And then as you see, it'll probably move here pretty quickly, but as you see, if these days on market keep creeping up and up and up, close quickly, no contingencies. You just never know. You never know about their situation, right? Trying to think if there's anything else I was going to show y'all today. I think that's it. I think that's all I'm going to was planning to do today. I'm not going to look at this other property here. It's only been on the market for about 6 days, according to this. We're going to scroll down just to see. Is it truly 6 days? Yeah. Okay. Just went live. If you want to see more or kind of get your own, if you want the complete guide that I have with this whole system, you can go to findyournextbird.com, put your name, email, phone number in there. It's gonna be emailed to you, and I'll follow up with you via text. Make sure you got it. You can do that, and then I think that's it. So if you're a married, busy parent and you've got 0 through rentals and you're looking to get that one good cash flowing deal this year, let's have a conversation. You can go to the findyournextbird.com. We have a free version of our virtual community that is just married, busy parents that you can join. Doesn't cost you anything, just your email address. And you'll get to interact not only with me in there, you also get to interact with other married, busy parents who are doing the exact same thing. If you've still watching and you want me to underwrite your city, your county, your zip code, whatever, drop that in the comment wherever you're watching this video, and I will add it to the list. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day, and see you next time.